Hey, Kenny, how are your parents?
They're doing all right. How's yours?
Yeah, pretty good, but you know what that means?
What's that?
Neither of us can be a protagonist in a major anime.
Oh.
I know, pretty disappointing, right?
Yeah.
But this show's about one that can.
Kawaii-Fi Radio
Extra.
Konnichiwa, and welcome to another Kawaii-Fi Extra, one of our little lovely spin-off episodes from the main Kawaii-Fi Radio podcast, where we look at whatever we feel like and have watched this week.
Pretty much. It's a casual kind of a thing.
Yeah, now, we did mention in the last podcast we were going to kind of do a couple of Kawaii-Fi Extras in the lead-up, with we having a bit of a change of roster here.
I mean, we've got nothing else going on.
No, I mean,
let's face it.
Yeah, not many of us do, unfortunately. But we thought we'd actually go into the back catalogue and have a look at something we wanted to talk about towards the end of last year, but we kind of ran out of time to talk about it on the show.
Yes, the trailer was announced in August of 2019. We are talking, of course, about Black Fox.
Yes, now this is available on Crunchyroll pretty much everywhere in the world now. There are some exceptions throughout Europe and Asia, so have a look at your local distributors. But Black Fox is a 90-minute anime film that we thought, well, we've heard a lot of good things. The trailer for it looked great. We might as well finally check it out while we've actually got all this wonderful downtime.
Pretty much, yes.
So, this was created by Studio 3 Hertz, Studio 3HZ. You might recognise that name if you've watched Sword Art Online Alternative, i.e. Gun Gale Online, or Dimension W, or Flip Flappers, or Princess Principal. They're kind of the main things this studio has been involved in the past.
Yeah, it's I think the studio was only brought up around 2013 or so, so
Yeah.
they're a recent kind of a company, but they've got some pretty good animes under their name.
Yeah, I mean, they also have some that are questionable, but we won't go into that.
I mean, who
well.
doesn't?
Who doesn't these days? But yeah, look, Black Fox landed, I think it was
October of 2019.
October 5th. And it actually aired outside of Japan before it aired over there, only by one day, admittedly. But essentially, Crunchyroll were the licenses for this series, and this film, and it's premiered on their streaming service on that day before it actually launched on Japanese TV the day following, which clearly is to do with the rights they had behind it, because they must have funded it in some part, which we're seeing a lot more with Crunchyroll recently.
I really, really want to get into something about the trailer that amused me, because that was what initially sort of interested us, but I feel like we should tell the story first.
Let's get into the synopsis. So,
okay, our story is centered on young Rika Isaguri, eldest daughter, seemingly only daughter, of a ninja clan in the modern age of Japan. Well, even that part's questionable.
It's questionable whether it's Japan or just some entirely made-up modern location.
Well, it's set in Brad City.
Brad City.
Yes. While her grandfather trains her during the day to be a swift and deadly ninja, she longs to pursue a more science-based life, similar to that of her father. One day, however, on her 16th birthday, all hell breaks loose. Her home and her father's laboratory come under attack by a shady military group intent on stealing her father's robotic research. She finds herself separated from her family, and she swears bloody vengeance on her attackers, taking to the streets as a ninja vigilante.
And you do get to see a lot of the character development for Rika throughout the series. And look, first things first.
Throughout their series, that's the...
Yeah. Now, this was intended as a TV series before it transitioned to a movie later on in production. And we don't know quite why that happened. I think it might either be a financial constraint or something else which happened.
I feel like it really shows as well.
It really does.
It feels like it really should have been a series.
Because only Rika really gets that solid character development, doesn't she?
Everyone else is kind of lacking.
Especially the villains.
Yeah.
They almost feel like they've been kind of quickly put in at the last minute. Like Mia's character, who's a side character you meet, seems genuinely interesting. I'd love to know her backstory.
Heck yeah.
But there's not enough time to explore her backstory in 90 minutes, as well as then, talking about Rika and the massive conglomerate that runs the city and all these other interconnecting factors.
Yes, and we know there are two villains. One of them is sort of like a Lex Luthor behind the scenes, one who is very, very much teased in the last few seconds.
Who's very much teased in like the first second of the series once they go past that. And on that note, the animation is fantastic. That opening scene.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's
just wonderful movement, very smooth, great use of lighting, very vivid. Like the colors in this, I mean, it's not a promare, but it's getting towards that end of the scale in a good way.
I'd say so, yeah. I'd say this is honestly, if you guys for Naruto fans out there, if you guys are longing for something along the lines of like old school Naruto, I feel like this is your fix.
Yeah, it definitely is. But I mean, let's go back to the villains because, as we said, they do kind of feel very one note. And if it was a series, there would likely be a lot more time for them to kind of explore the backstory of these villains as well.
I feel like there'd be perhaps a few more. They might go probably sort of monster of the week. This is an anime you don't really have to put too much thought into. Like that, you can take that as a good thing or a bad thing.
Yeah, I mean, look, you'd think like if it was a series, they might have bumped into this guy several times throughout the series. If it was a series,
Even
before
then,
the big climax occurred.
I'm not so sure. The way he was written to just basically be unstable, crazy, a massive sociopath, uncaring. So if they had bumped into him, they'd basically just like go, "Who the hell was that manically laughing guy on the street? I will destroy your world."
So this is like you could have control of a video game.
I don't know what you're trying to imply.
Oh no, just all the cackling last episode.
So yeah, one thing I really wanted to go back to is the comment section for the trailer.
Yes.
It all says the same thing basically over and over again because we have seen this kind of story before.
We have.
I want to read a couple of the comments. So someone says, "Anime character is living peacefully. Anime, bing bong, your father is gone."
Oh dear.
Anime main character, "I want to be just like my parent." Anime creator, laughs in character death. Main character has family. Plot, ma'am, that's illegal.
Dear me.
It just goes on and on.
Yes. I mean,
almost like 50 comments. It was hilarious to read through them all.
Now, on the note of the story, this was something we found a little bit unusual. So the story has a almost familiar 3-act structure that you'd expect to see in many of those Hollywood action films, like Marvel films, DC films, your cliche action film where there's the resurgence part. It kind of didn't feel like a typical anime film.
It really didn't.
It
felt more like a Marvel hero origin movie.
Yeah, especially those outro credits. That definitely made it feel
everything out of every Avengers movie ever.
Yeah, like I don't know if it's the 3-act structure or format or something, or because maybe it might have been Crunchyroll's involvement, because they could have. I mean, 3 Hertz could have went, well, they are a more Western company. Maybe they're looking for a more Western story.
Yeah, perhaps.
And I don't know if that works or doesn't. It feels a little bit odd.
Teases at sort of almost an expanded universe.
It really
at the
does.
very end. And then there's those credits. There's the way that everyone sort of gets like a slick costume upgrade in the 3rd act as well. It's just sort of like, this is pretty familiar. I mean, apart from the whole like revenge trope thing, like because everyone has seen that before a few times. But I don't know. I feel like it was kind of marketed in a certain way.
Yeah, definitely.
And it does suffer a little bit for being so shortened.
Yeah.
As a series, I felt like it would easily just have shone as great anime.
There's
in
a
the
lot
season.
to say about a series, a concept becoming a series or a film. I mean, on the upside here, like if it did become a series, we might have had a situation where they tried to drag out some of those plot points a lot longer. Like there might have been moments in the apartment where they're eating dinner for a lot longer, or having more gags to do with the food, or there could have been more things happening at the inspection office, like the detective office and all that, And there's the opposite side of that, where it gives you, if it is a film format instead, you get the opportunity to kind of quickly punch through a lot of that exposition that we're used to seeing.
I feel like that could actually, I think I have to disagree with you on that. If we had like, I don't know, a 12 episode structure and a couple of episodes were just them just sort of screwing around in the city. I mean, Rika later on, she's got a cover identity and she's working as an assistant for a private detective. I feel like, pretending to be a normal person and then using her sick ninja skills to solve private detective things, that'd be a great, few episodes.
I'd be fine for those few episodes. I just mean, like, as the way those plot points were brought across, like, they did feel like they needed to be within that 10-minute window and not stretched out too much. Like, it would be a very fine balancing act. They could do it, don't get me wrong. Both formats have that benefit. But I think because of the way that they've approached this, it's given them the opportunity to kind of cut out a lot of the fat. But I think because of them cutting that out, it's also kind of reduced how easy it is to relate to these characters to an extent as well.
I mean, it's funny you should mention, you mentioned Promare earlier,
Yeah.
and that was one that we both agree, like, it doesn't suffer for the fact that
It
it's not a
doesn't.
series. But gods,
I would
imagine if
love
that
it
was
as
a series.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like just still a sensational movie, but it makes you want more.
It does. It really does. Now, if you've ever watched a certain scientific railgun, any of the series of that, including the third one which is airing at the moment, you will definitely recognize the main theme, which is called Black Fox as well. It's performed by Thripside, who did all the music for Railgun. It's got a bit of a Railgun-ish vibe in that regard.
Decent soundtrack to that end. It's a nice kind of a constant. It's nice and high energy. It's what you want.
Oh, and also CG. Now, there was some questionable use of CG when in the city scenes. Now, we don't mean like what we've seen with the Uncanny Valley that occasionally pops up for some of like the Idol Maker programs.
Yeah.
But it just... Some vehicles seemed a little bit oddly CG and stood out. Some pedestrians, for some reason, were CG, and others then weren't. They were hand-drawn.
I've noticed that with a few animes as well, and I've read things on forums in places of people saying, "Oh, this is a sign of laziness on the studio's behalf," of them saying that they're just sort of like including these like walking CG pedestrians in the background to just fill a frame. And I'm like, I can see why you're saying that, but I disagree.
Yeah, I wonder if there's like maybe a thing where they initially did it and they went, oh, actually, no, we could use more in the background and then inserted it in post.
Perhaps. And I don't begrudge someone for doing that. It's it makes sense from an editorial perspective to add stuff like that in post.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But pedestrians, this is the other side of it, I guess. Some pedestrians are sort of flatly drawn with no facial animation. Then you have a CG person walk past, you're like, well, why?
I think I noticed that like way in the earlier bits.
Especially in the earlier bits, yeah. But I mean, actually staying with that art style is beautiful and fun. And that flow of the movement, as I mentioned earlier, is great, especially in that opening scene. And that recurs throughout the whole film. Like every scene where there is a lot of rapid movement, it's very smooth, it's very controlled, and it feels like it has weight to it. You know how we were saying, like I think a few episodes back, that sometimes you see those shows with CG or animation where an impact doesn't really feel like it hits because it's not shown by...
It doesn't have the same kind of satisfactory oomph.
Yeah, like it doesn't feel like it actually hit. It feels like the explosion is like... It feels like a stunt, like someone has purposely set off the explosion, and therefore it doesn't feel... You don't feel like it rocks the scenery, if that makes sense.
It's funny you'd like to talk about it being like something that you feel in an animation
I know,
format.
right?
But no, I completely understand it. Like it's the same with films, with video games. If something just doesn't have that kind of almost tactile quality to it, it's found lacking. It feels fake and it breaks immersion.
It does, and it's especially when like I can't remember which one we saw. It was like
Are we talking Demon King retry?
that's exactly what I was thinking. Where like the impacts don't feel like they hit. It feels like
because they don't.
It
happens off screen.
Everything happens off screen. This doesn't suffer from that. It's genuinely satisfying when something impacts.
Yeah, this is
something
the
else.
other end of the scale from that.
This is the Promare level of stuff where it's just like boom, and you see the explosion coming, and you can feel it per se.
Through, air quotes.
Well, I mean, like the sound effects, the way the screen moves, and everything really connects to it and makes that immersion possible. But look, I really enjoyed this. It's not going to be everyone's cup of tea, especially if you're one of those people who's now very sick of like the Marvel cinematic movies and so forth. It might be a bit tiring to get through. But I will still happily give it 6 absent mothers, because where are all the female figures in Rika's at life? Like, I really don't get that. I mean, we're so used to like, both of your parents are dead, or just one of your parents are dead, but both the granddad and the father are there, but the grandmother isn't there and the mother isn't there.
Yeah, what's the deal with that?
Yeah, who knows? Like, diverse family options, I guess.
Yeah, I'm going to give it 6 tragic backstories. It's derivative, but it's still fun. It's still a nice visual feast.
I definitely enjoyed it. You can check that out on Crunchyroll in almost all regions. If you're in the US, UK, I'm pretty sure Ireland as well. France and the rest of Europe, I need to check out to find out if it is on there. But
I think they just need to wait a little bit. But yeah,
but it's definitely worth checking, especially at this time. When a lot of us are looking for something new to watch, and if you haven't seen it already and you're thinking about getting Crunchyroll's free trial, then this is a great time to check it out.
Hit it up.
Kawaii-Fi Radio.
Yes, well, that's another Kawaii-Fi Extra in the bag. Bit of a shorter episode, as you'd imagine, with these extras. It's what they're there for.
It's
a-
bite-sized.
Exactly, bite-sized, delicious, tasty, like a Crunchyroll.
Fun size.
Fun size. We will be back in another week with another mini episode.
Why do they call those fun size anyway? It's no fun to have it tiny.
It's not. It's really not. And they've got the fun-size chocolates have gotten smaller and smaller every year. It's disgusting.
Yeah, it's a conspiracy, I say.
I, if I'm going in, I want a bag of like full-size Mars bars in a bit of bag.
Yeah, that would be fun size. You know what? We need to fight this conspiracy. We need to make this our revenge plot. This is our tragic backstory. The ever-shrinking fun-size Snickers.
So you clearly didn't have a good Halloween last year.
I really didn't know.
And we even watched Halloween animes. It didn't really work out. Look, we will be back in a week's time with another mini episode for you to check out. It'll be about another film of our choosing. We won't tell you what that is quite yet, but we can let you know it will be a visual feast. And between now and then, make sure you look after yourself. And until next time, watch some anime.